machine guns, anti-tank missile systems, anti-aircraft guns, and multiple launch rocket systems. No, these aren't high-end assault weapons, just what crafty hands install onto pickup trucks. Even though most people see this vehicle as a symbol of farming, construction, and cowboy hats, for soldiers, these trucks not only helped win crucial battles, but also stopped the advance of a nuclear weapons state. But how did pickups go from this to this? You see, at the beginning of the automobile era, the ancestor of the pickup truck barely resembled modern cars, but was more like a cart with a motor. Everything changed after World War II, when the truck became available to a wide range of consumers and small businesses. Pickups began to be filmed in movies and advertised on television. In the 70s, these vehicles were primarily used for commercial purposes and spread among small businesses worldwide. Back then, the machines were designed to be reliable, long-lasting, and easy to operate. Eventually, these cars were actively bought in Lebanon, which, until the 1970s, was called Middle Eastern Switzerland. However, an accident changed the fate of these vehicles and Lebanon. On April 13, 1975, a bus carrying Palestinians was attacked in the capital's Christian neighborhood of Ain Ruman, which was the formal pretext for the outbreak of civil war in politically, ethnically, and religiously diverse Lebanon. Such a multi-vector nature of the war led to prolonged fighting in cities and rural areas, where the methods of warfare with the use of mechanized units, defense lines, and infantry assaults turned out to be ineffective. A fundamentally new solution was needed, and this is where the pickup truck came to the fore. The first documented use of pickup trucks in combat occurred in the Beirut suburb of Ashrafia. This Christian neighborhood became the epicenter of the war in its early stages. This is not to say that it was a subtle strategic plan. The fact is that the fighters of the Lebanese Christian group Lebanese Front simply could not drive their armored vehicles through the narrow streets of Beirut, and they had few resources to repair them, so they began to improvise. However, they needed to be armed before going into battle on yesterday's vendor trucks. For this purpose, 12.7mm Soviet DSHK machine guns, which are usually used to engage air targets, were ideal. Their advantage in being mounted on a pickup truck was that they could strike both infantry and lightly armored vehicles, providing significant firepower with high mobility. Setting up their machine guns and sitting in the backs of trucks that only yesterday had been used for crops, the Christian fighters launched a surprise attack on a Palestinian faction base. Their sudden appearance with heavy machine guns disoriented the Palestinians and contributed to the success of the operation. After this battle, asymmetric conflicts changed forever. Pickup trucks made it possible to create mobile firing platforms that could move quickly, strike from unexpected positions, and disappear in a flash. Other parties to the conflict began to copy this tactic. Pickup trucks quickly became an unofficial weapon for different Lebanese and Palestinian groups. However, the war in Lebanon was only the beginning. If you think that the tactics of small guerrilla attacks are the only thing that unarmored vehicles can do, watch this video till the end. And now, I will tell you about the conflict named after a pickup truck brand. Some of you have already guessed that this is about the Toyota War. This conflict took place in 1987 between Libya and Chad and got its name because of the massive use of Toyota Land Cruiser pickups. The main reason for the war was a territorial dispute over control of the northern region of Chad, the Ozo Strip, which is rich in natural resources, especially uranium. In 1983, Libyan troops, together with their allies from Chadian separatist groups, occupied the northern regions of Chad and, by the mid-1980s, controlled a large part of the country. The situation changed in 1986, when Chadian government forces received help from the United States and France to organize a counteroffensive. Why did these countries help Chad? You will find out in the comments below the video. Don't goof around and join the discussion. Chad's allies took into account the experience of the Lebanon War. Still, they decided to develop the use of pickup trucks much more widely. The vast desert space of Chad was the absolute contrast to the streets of Beirut, and this only proves the versatility of using pickup trucks. The desert proved to be even more suitable for successful operations with these vehicles. In March 1987, one of the critical battles of the Toyota War took place. Chadian forces used their pickup trucks to capture the fortified Libyan base of Wadi Rum, destroying dozens of tanks and capturing a large amount of ammunition. The Wadi Dum base was a well-protected complex in the middle of the desert. There were more than 5,000 Libyan soldiers and heavy equipment, including tanks, armored personnel carriers, and artillery pieces. Wadi Dum also had an airstrip to support aviation and was surrounded by minefields and anti-tank barriers. A real medieval fortress, isn't it? Well, if you don't count the Air Force and the mines. Anyway, the Chadians used surprise attacks on Libyan positions, with pickup trucks and rocket launchers on them. Minefields were overcome with the help of reconnaissance and knowledge of the terrain. The biggest surprise for the Libyans was the effectiveness of Chadian pickup trucks armed with anti-aircraft guns and ATGMs. They were able to destroy more than 70 Libyan tanks and armored personnel carriers. The speed and maneuverability of the pickup trucks allowed the Chadian forces to avoid counterattacks and strike at the enemy's heavy equipment. After several hours of fighting, the Chadians broke through the Libyan defense and captured the base. The Libyans were forced to retreat, leaving behind a vast amount of equipment, ammunition, and supplies. The Chadian troops captured about 100 armored vehicles as well as artillery pieces and automobiles, but the jackpot was a huge amount of ammunition. So the scale is growing and growing. Pickup trucks are becoming almost a key instrument of warfare in the Middle East or Africa. However, can you imagine that using pickups will make a massive difference in stopping a nuclear-armed country's offensive? Oh yeah, this is the part of the video you turned it on for. Starting with a small thing, we've come to almost an absolute. It's hard to find a unit in the Ukrainian army that doesn't use pickup trucks, and that's a million soldiers BTW. It all started in 2014, when Russia unleashed a hybrid war on Donbas and Crimea. The Ukrainian army was not in its best shape then, and civilian passenger buses, so-called yellow bodons, were the most common means of transportation. For smaller scale needs, some units used pickup trucks. In particular, they were pretty common among volunteer units such as the Right Sector or the Donbas Battalion. However, pickup trucks became a real lifesaver in 2022 with the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Regular army forces were not enough to defend the country, so at the beginning of the war, hundreds of thousands of volunteers joined the armed forces of Ukraine. But it was not possible to provide everyone with the necessary assets. That's when thousands of private cars started performing combat and other tasks at the front. Thousands of volunteers and organizations began supplying civilian vehicles to the army, and pickup trucks became the holy grail of the volunteer movement. In the first few months of the war, car dealerships from Tallinn to Dublin ran out of Mitsubishi L200s, Nissan Navras, and other affordable pickups. All of them ended up in military units performing combat missions. The number of firearms mounted on pickup trucks has also risen tremendously. If machine guns or anti-tank weapons are no longer a surprise, how about this? A rocket launcher mounted on a damaged Russian BM-21 Grad or even a 9K-57 Uragan provides fire cover and destroys the enemy along the entire front line. The number of such units is challenging to calculate, but they can definitely make up an artillery battalion. However, the brightest example is a pickup truck with a block of unguided airborne missiles, NAR, which are usually used on helicopters such as Mi-8 or Mi-2. The most commonly used B-8 V-20A unit for 80mm unguided missiles, such as the S-8, is the standard equipment on Soviet and Russian helicopters. These missiles are designed to strike enemy manpower and light vehicles. In some cases, pickup trucks with missile launchers are even equipped with special fire control systems that allow for more accurate missile guidance, even without the use of helicopter systems. Although this solution looks improvised, it is highly effective. The scope of pickup trucks in general has also expanded. We can talk about their comprehensive role in the Ukrainian army. They are often the only means of transportation to get personnel closer to their positions. Their mobility and portable electronic warfare systems allow them to deliver people to the landing site without losses. In addition, pickups are an effective means of evacuating the wounded. Of course, no one takes a wounded person to a hospital in this vehicle, but getting them to an evacuation medical team is a crucial task. And don't forget about air defense. Pickup trucks with twin machine guns successfully and economically destroy swarms of Iranian-Russian kamikaze drones. And of course, we shouldn't ignore the logistics function. Pickups can easily transport ammunition and other things the army needs that should be loaded or unloaded super fast. Thus, the pickup truck became irreplaceable in Europe's most extensive land war since World War II. Its versatility and mobility allow the Ukrainian military to perform tasks where regular vehicles are ineffective. Overall, in the past 50 years, pickup trucks have become essential in warfare. Being a forced replacement for military vehicles in the conflicts of the 70s and 80s, these cars can be seriously considered a particular type of combat equipment. The military is interested in pickup trucks because of their specific characteristics that large armored vehicles do not have, their multi-purpose nature, and their wide range of applications. I would not be surprised if, in the next decade, we see improved versions of civilian pickup trucks for military use. Lightly armored wheeled vehicles can be a solution to dozens of problems, just as they have been a solution to asymmetric conflicts in recent decades. The pickup truck has made its way from rebel groups to regular armies, so maybe it's time to consider their role in the highest military offices. I'll leave you with this question in the comments below the video, and don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Also, check your subscription to our channel because we talk about weapons of victory that impress the imagination.